All right, so this is round three against Bo and Wang, uh, rated over a little bit over 2,000. And I start the game with d4 as I was doing this tournament. And we get uh, a Nimzo Indian defense. And against Nimzo Indian for this tournament, I was playing the Queen c2 line. Castles a3, takes on c3, Queen takes c3, b6, Bishop g5, Bishop b7, f3. This is all preparation, like that I was looking at for this, not for this opponent, but for this tournament. This is what I was planning on playing. d5, I play e3, a knight bd7, and here I'm out of book. I mean, it's the exact order of the moves. I was sort of in book, sort of not in book. I didn't really know like when to play which moves, but I knew all the moves that needed to be played. I was sort of in that sort of position. And here I determined, given the openings that I had been looking at, that taking on d5 is the correct approach in this position. As it turns out, knight takes d5 is very strong. Well, not very strong, but like it's the best response. And if you take on d8, takes on c3, you get this sort of position. In the game, though, my opponent just played e takes d5. Uh, Now, what's funny is I had been looking at uh, positions where there was already a rook on e8, and so it was difficult to develop this light square bishop because bishop d3 would hang the e3 pawn after like an h6, g5 sort of thing, rook takes e3. So in those lines, I had been looking at moving like bishop b5, bishop a4, and then the bishop would come around this way. This would allow the knight to develop, and the queen would hold coverage on the e3 pawn. In this position, the rook is not yet on e8, so I do actually have time to play bishop d3, and after move rook e8, I could just play. Well, here also the bishop is defending, but like queen d2, for example. Like it's not I didn't hang a pawn. So, but in the game, I didn't remember that. I had remembered seeing this idea of bishop b5 to a4, so I just went for it now, even though it's not really necessary, but it's fine. h6, I just play bishop h4. In all of these positions, black has the idea of playing knight e4 and playing, queen, bishop takes d8, knight takes c3, and we just play this endgame sort of thing. Here, the knight will actually be attacking the bishop, so I would probably have to throw in like bishop takes d7, rook takes d7, uh, it's b takes c3, he takes on d8. These sorts of things could have happened. c6 instead, and now here I should probably just play bishop to d3 where it should be. It should have been the whole time, but again, I had seen this idea where I put the bishop on a4 and it comes around. Um, so I put it on a4, rook e8's a good move. Now I need to determine where I want to put my knight. I eventually determined that I put it on h3. Knight e2 is definitely a more natural move. The reason I put it on h3 is because I felt like maybe at some point I'm going to want to play rook e1 to either defend the pawn or support the push to e4, and the knight might get in the way there. Additionally, uh, where do I want this knight to go from either square? It's not going to g3 really, because my bishop wants this diagonal to retreat on if it needs to. It's not going to c3 really. I guess it could go there, but I was sort of feeling like maybe it should go to the f4 square. And it can go to f4 from either h3 or e2, so I didn't think it mattered that much. Knight e2 is definitely the more natural move. Also, this is not a novel position. This position has been reached before a few times, and knight e2 is played in all of those games. So it should have gone to e2, but instead knight went to h3. b5 is a very bizarre move. I in the game knew it was wrong, but like I don't know, the bishop drops back to c2. It just gives me this weakness to play on c6 against the bishop. He should really have been playing for c5. I mean, that makes the bishop better. It's the right break in the position. Right now, I understand he is uncomfortable with this bishop, and it sort of makes sense because it is pressuring a lot of pieces on the diagonal, including the pawn, which it cannot be taken because of rook c8 very very clearly. Um, so yeah, b5 is definitely not right. Bishop goes to c2. Queen e7 attacks my pawn. I just dropped the bishop back. And now it was sort of funny because I have like my bishop goes to b5, a4, c2, and the other bishop goes to g5, h4, f2. So I have this sort of symmetrical bishops moving around, which I was very happy about. C5 is it's a good move. It just feels like there's a lot going on here. A lot of different options for me to resolve the center. What's interesting is that I actually felt like I was worse here. Normally, I have a pretty good understanding of like if I'm worse or better. Sometimes I don't see the exact moves for why, but like I normally feel like about the position like okay, I'm a little bit worse, a little bit better. Here's an example of a position where I felt like if I just castled and allowed c4, then I would be a little bit, under some pressure on the queen side with like a5, b4 coming. And I also felt like if I took it, then he would get a lot of play like on the c file, and that also didn't feel very good to me. Um, in the end, I do decide to capture. I decide that this is the way I want to play after knight takes that now a castle. I just really didn't like allowing that bind with a5, b4. It turns out that I can play that way. Um, but after rook c8, I just dropped the queen back to d2, knight e6, sort of stopping knight f4, although really I should play knight f4 anyway, I would say, because uh, I just, in my head, I don't really want to allow a doubled pawn, but the e3 pawn is more of a weakness than an asset right now. If it was sitting on f4, that would actually probably be ideal for me, and because then I'll be able to play rook e1, rook d1. My position just comes alive. My bishop will be able to sit on d4. There's no one to challenge it because this knight's off the board. This knight takes forever to challenge it. It's just a beautiful position after knight f4. So knight f4 is a very nice move. It's the move I wanted to play before knight e6, but somehow I just didn't feel like it was right here, which is, I should definitely play the move knight e4, knight f4. Rook fe1, maybe threatening some e4 move, or just, it's just useful developing move. Rook d8, bishop h4, just another move. Queen c5 is a very bizarre move. I mean, I did a double take when that move was played. It's like, okay, I want to play bishop takes f6, right? Is what's your plan if I take on f6? And I thought for a little while before realizing like you have to like there's no taking on c2 because your rook on d8's hanging. So what do you got? Like, I don't understand. So I take it, and then immediately without hesitation g takes f6, and I'm like, well, like isn't that good for me? I mean, I was just sort of confused. Um, but I guess, yes, white is better, but it's not like that much better than it could have been before this exchange happened. I play rook c1, the queen goes to d6, I play queen d3, knight f8. And here my whole concept that I have is sort of just wrong. I thought that I would be able to go um like queen f5, get my knight in the game through like f2 g4 and just mate. Uh, this is turns out not to be the correct plan. I start with knight f2, b4, trying to get some counterplay, which it's not entirely made up counterplay. It's not like I can just ignore this. I have to do something about it. I play knight g4, but after king g7, um, I don't know. I played queen f4, thinking I'm just gonna go over here and try to mate you, but I just missed like knight g6, and rook can go to h8, and if the rook goes to h8, then my whole attack is completely fizzled, and now the counterplay on the queen side really starts to matter. So in the game, I played AB and offered a draw because I was sort of realizing that the tides were turning. I knew I had some sort of advantage, but I also had felt at this point that I had thrown it away, and I was starting to get a little bit concerned after like, like my queen side might get picked up, and then this a pawn is going to be really dangerous. My attack isn't really doing anything. So, maybe eventually d4 occurs, and the bishop is very strong on the diagonal. Whatever the case may be, I was just really not in the mood to lose another game coming off of World Open, and now two losses in this tournament. I just wanted to stop the bleeding, make a draw, not overpress, and live to fight another day. So yeah, that's the sort of anticlimactic ending to this game. But hope you enjoyed it regardless, and I will see you in the next video.